Okay. So Sandra, we've got somehow have all the staff people up at the top of the list. I guess we got here first.
So I really need to spend time with my kids as soon as I get out of work meaning out of my room, because they've been working on the computer all day long. So we have just been trying to do something fun. We turn the news off and they are so excited for Christmas that we're going with it. So we've been watching The Grinch and Frosty and Rudolph and all of those and just trying to keep it light.
Thanks. And Sue.
Hi, everyone. For those that don't know me, I'm Sue Siglowski, the Executive Director of VSBA. And I have been watching a television show called Life in Pieces. And it's about the lives of 3 generations of the Short family as they go about their daily lives in Los Angeles. Each episode is told as 4 short stories, typically 3 that focus on different members of the family, and then a 4th one sort of ties it all together, ties the other 3 stories together. It's a very wacky show that makes me laugh, which is something that I find I really need to do in order to stay positive.
Thank you. So Dave, you're next, Dave Sharp. And now that we're through with the staff, please tell us a little bit about yourself as well as giving us your tidbit, but limit yourself to about a minute because we have a lot of people to get through.
Okay, so I'm Dave Sharp. I have had 3 careers in my life. My wife and I have raised 2 boys and we have 3 grandchildren. My 3 careers are running an auto repair garage, then for 20 years teaching automotive technology for 20 years, and serving in the legislature for 16 years. I'm now happily retired and foolishly ran for the the school board in Bristol to sort of see how Act 46 is working on the ground. I'm not much of a reader, so don't get the wrong idea, but I read a book that my neighbor brought by. This is the graphic biography of Smedley Butler, the most decorated Marine in the history of the United States. His adventures in Nicaragua and China and elsewhere on behalf of American corporations turned very much against the war, and gave me the idea that we really don't teach history. We teach corporate history in our schools for the most part. And so we could really do some different curriculum in history. Thank you.
Thank you. David Chandler.
Okay, I'm off mute. I also have a checkered career. We've been in Dorset for 20 years, but before that I was a teacher in international schools and actually ended up running the boarding section of a school in Greece. And then we spent 10 years working in relief and development in Southeast Asia, where I got my first taste of being on a school board, because I was I was the chair of the International School Board for the International School Board of Yangon or Rangoon. And then the last 20 years, my brother and I have been running a company that sells decorative rugs and pillows all over the country. So I don't save lives anymore. I provide people who don't need anything with things they don't need. So, but that's a little cynical, but we do keep a lot of people employed in India. My distractions, I have 2 sets. One is I do read a lot, and usually it's a junk, but lately I discovered most women discovered Susan Monk Kidd a long time ago, and I just discovered her about 3 months ago. So I read her most recent book called The Book of Longings, which was phenomenal. And then I started from the beginning with The Secret Life of Bees, and now I'm in the middle of The Invention of Wings. And a lot of her stuff is on women's rights and on racial stuff. So it's very relevant to what's going on in this world and quite phenomenal. She's just a great writer. She fits the classic mold of a Southern writer, but she's a woman, and she's just really good. And then on the other side, my wife and I have been watching, just finished a series on TV that's very brutal. It's called The Last Kingdom, and it's all historical stuff about the Danes trying to take over the United Kingdom back in the 900s. So it definitely takes you to another world. So that's my mixed up world of suppressed violence and phenomenal insights.
Thanks. So the next one on the list is Claudia Gonda, but I think we'll make that George.
Yes, I thought I changed that name a while ago, but I'm using my wife's laptop. So it's been a very interesting year in a lot of ways. We have my wife and I started watching the series The Crown, which is very interesting. I'm learning some history that I was not aware of. Very interesting so far. Also, the last book I read is Hidden Figures, which is about the time when computer was a profession, not an object. They actually had a position called computer, and they had to be strong in math and everything. And it's about Black women in general, but women also who excelled in NASA and its predecessor, and really made the trip to the moon possible. So I wish more of that history was common knowledge, because it just shows if you're judged on your talents, you're acceptable to just about anybody.
Thank you. Adrian.
Have to unmute. I've been on our local school board for ages, but before that I was a stay-at-home mom. I have 3 boys. They're all pretty much out of the house. I just became a grandmother this year, which is terribly exciting. I have the most cute, adorable grandson who is just about 3 months old now. He was planning to come visit with his parents for Christmas. I'm not sure that's going to happen, so that's sort of sad, to say the least. And we have been binging, my husband and I, on film noir on Turner Classic. And then we've moved to Netflix, and now we've moved on to Amazon. So we're sort of closing that loop. I also liked West Wing, and Christmas movies are always great. One that most people don't watch, It Happened on Fifth Avenue. It's adorable. I love it. It's sort of right after World War II. Very interesting. Wonderful movie.
Thanks. Okay, now this list is jumping around. Amy. Amy?
Yeah, here I am.
Okay, thanks.
The most recent book that I read is Una, Out of Order. And imagine that your birthday is January 1st and you're 19 and really looking forward to turning 20. And at the stroke of midnight, your whole world just kind of collapses and you wake up and you're 50. And Una lives for the rest of her life a different age every year. And it's about relationships and love and learning about yourself. And it's just really fun. I'm Amy McMillan. I'm on the Windsor Mount Escutney School District Board and the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union Board for about 10 or 12 years. And I'm a children's librarian in Heartland, Vermont. And I have 2 kids. One is a junior in college and the other just graduated and started his new job down in Maryland.
Thanks, Amy.
Oh, and one more. So on television, as a family, we all watched Schitt's Creek. It was delightful. I highly recommend it. And now we're watching a kind of creepy, disturbing show called Killing Eve. It's on Hulu.
Great. Thank you. Colleen.
Hi, I'm Colleen McKinnon, Heinsberg, Vermont, and Chittenden East Regional Rep. I've been on school board for a number of years. Heinsberg, and used to be Chittenden South and now Champlain Valley School District. My professional work, I'm currently a consultant for higher education, working with educator preparation programs. I also do accreditation reviews of programs, and I teach part-time at the University of Vermont in the Foundations of Education, which is the history, philosophy, sociology, all the fun stuff about education. For my distractions, I've gotten hooked on a podcast called Ben Franklin's World. And the centering piece of Ben Franklin's world is the American Revolution. And it goes into every angle of history from that time before and after. And it's a fascinating, they last about an hour. And I go outside and work in my yard, and before I know it, the hour's gone, and I wish it was another hour that I could listen to another one. So I've been addicted to that. I also want to advocate Schitt's Creek. It's a great show. So thank you.
Thanks. Dan?
Okay, so I was born and grew up in the same town that I currently live in, Marlborough, and went to the same school that I'm currently on the school board for. So I don't feel like I've had any of the adventures that many of you folks have, and I'm somewhat envious, but on the other hand, really glad to be here in this place now. Both of our kids live on the same farm with us, and all of our grandchildren do as well. My wife and I run a small farm. We make maple syrup, we grow raspberries, blueberries, vegetables, have a farm stand. Keeps us busy, as you can imagine. Recently finished 2 books, and they're completely different from each other. The one by Terry Tempest Williams is called Erosion, her most recent one. And you can imagine from the title what she's writing about, a wonderful Mormon writer from Utah. But erosion as the banks of our normal rivers wash away what's left behind them. The other one, much more uplifting. If you want to laugh and cry, Brian Doyle, One Long River of Song, he published after his untimely death. It's a series of vignettes, and every single one of them will just grab you and make you swoon. So I can't recommend either one of them highly enough.
Excellent. Thank you. Dawn? Dawn, you're muted.
Good. Okay. So anyway, I've been around a while. I quit school in the 1st grade, and then I went back to school, and at my mother's insistence, and then went on to 35 years in education, 17 as a superintendent, 15th year on a school board, and I guess probably that's crazy enough. Didn't realize it until I heard David and some of them talking about. I've had 4 careers. Started out in carpentry, then went to college, education, then back to school construction oversight, project management, then to the legislature, 8 years, and now just focus on my antique business. I'm not a big TV buff, so I read. One book I read was because the Dodgers got to the World Series, and Gil Hodges was one of my favorite ball players of all times, and talks a lot about a man who was very capable but pretty unassuming and doesn't get the credit for being as good as he was. But the book I really want to share with you, I was talking with a friend a few months ago about the world and how the political climate was, I thought, pretty bad in many ways, and that the pandemic was making it hard for us to open schools. And he said, if you want a real challenge, read The Boys in the Boat. And it's a book about 9 Americans who had a quest for gold medal in the 1936 Olympics. And I will tell you, once I started reading it, it was really hard to put it down. So when I've taken a break from school board and the VSBA and my business and want to read, those are the 2 books I've had. The Prayer for Gil Hodges and The Boys in the Boat.
Thanks, Dawn. Floor.
Hi, I'm Flor. I grew up in Guatemala City, and I've been in Vermont for almost 22 years now. And I've been in the school board for about 11 and a half of those. And I have two kids, a senior that graduated through the pandemic and is taking a gap year, and a 15-year-old that is flying tomorrow back from training in Colorado. Crazy enough. Mountain open just to USS skiers. So I'm a little, tense about that, but excited that he'll be back. And my book, to me, and what else? I'm also in the Building Bright Futures. I represent the Vermont School Association. And the other thing that I've been really passionate about this year is the work going on diversifying the educator workforce. And the book that I just read recently, and I didn't know why I didn't know about this author before, and I feel like everybody should know about her. Her name is Elif Shafka, and I don't know if you've heard about her before. She's a Turkish Jewish writer, and she commutes between worlds, and worlds I mean by between languages. She writes both in English and in Turkish. She's just amazing. The book that I just read about from her was, it's called 10 Minutes and 38 Seconds in This Strange World. And the most beautiful part about part of the book is that your brain stays on after you die. I'm not giving you anything away. It happens in the first page. And then it's a question of what memories do you keep? Are the good ones or the bad ones? And the most beautiful part about the book is that really is told from the point of view of the outcasts of society in Turkey. And it's a beautiful story that celebrates diversity and inclusion and mostly friendship. And I think that friendship is what's kept us, at least me, through the pandemic, even if it's through Zoom, sane. That's it.
Great. Welcome back, by the way.
It was nice to be back.
Gaston, speaking of welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, it's nice to be back. Yeah, I had to step away for a little bit. So I previously served for a couple of months on the VSBA board. Rose and I are retired back to Vermont after a 30-year career in the Army. I'm a veteran of both Afghanistan and Iraq. Have 4 kids, and much like Dan, I grew up and went to school in the same town that I currently live in, with a caveat, Dan. I actually helped build the school that I am now the chair of. So that's real exciting to give back to the community in that way. So, and then as well, our oldest daughter is a 2nd grade teacher down in New Jersey. She's a sister and graduated from UVM. So anyway, thought I'd throw that in as well. In my travels, I had the absolute privilege of listening to Maya Angelou in person. And any opportunity that I get to, listen to her speak, or, docuseries, I listen to, because she was just incredible. And so I don't usually listen to Oprah Winfrey, but I gotta say, she did 2 interviews with Dr. Angelou, and it's just incredible. So that's a great listen. And by the way, while you're there listening to Oprah, she does an interview with, what's his name? Perry from Aerosmith, who grew up in New Hampshire, and she actually travels to New Hampshire. Sunapee is where he actually grew up. And she does a 2-part interview with him at Sunapee, and and I go there with my grandson skiing. So anyway, so those are my 2 things that I wanted to share today.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Jeremy.
Hey, hello.
Hi.
This is one of the new members, I guess, in one of the new districts. So I live in Milton, Vermont. I'm on the school board there, obviously, and have 3 children. One that just graduated in 2020, which was one for the ages, I guess. That's the whole March through June graduation season was kind of hectic. And been working with Sodexo. So I work in college training. I work at St. Michael's College. I've been there for quite a few years. What did I do this summer? Well, it was all a blur, but I get into a science fiction series, The Expanse. It's several books. It's set far in the future where Mars and the asteroid belt have been colonized, and then there's some interpolitics. It's like a 6 or 7 book series. I'm on number 4. And there's also a companion. Amazon made a series about it as well. So each series kind of covers one of the books. It's a nice, been a nice companion thing to read the book and then watch it come to life afterwards. So it's kind of kept my mind occupied from other things that have been going on this summer.
Great, thank you, and welcome. We look forward to working with you. Jim.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Jim Salzgiver. I'm on the Taconic and Green Regional School Board down in southern Vermont, and the Bennington Rutland Supervisory Union, where I'm the chair. I actually took over the chair of the BRSU from, of all people, Sue Suklowski. So, so I had great shoes to follow in there. But been in Vermont for about 20 years, had 4 daughters grow up through the, or graduate from the Vermont, our local school systems. And, but they're now grown all out of college even. So, that certainly saves my wallet quite a bit now that they're all done with that and working and supporting themselves, but which is nice, good news. So now with my wife and I alone, we took to, during the pandemic, we've definitely gotten into something that there is a unending unending supply of British murder mysteries. And so we've got tons of them out there, and just enjoy it. And you can get something like you look at something like Midsummer Murders, and it's like 20 of just hundreds. It's it's kind of stuff that's in great supply. So that's been kind of nice to be able to just do that.
Boy, I sure didn't peg you as that type. Interesting. Thanks, Jim. Yep. Judy?
Hi, I apologize for lack of video, but my internet has been temperamental today, so I want to make sure I can participate. I have been on a school board for about 7 years now from Blue Mountain, and in my other job, I oversee animal welfare training for a biotech company. So we're hard at work on the vaccine on the animal side of the world, and it's looking good. Let's see, well, during these turbulent times, I decided to read Slavery by Another Name. This is by Douglas Blackman, and it talks about kind of the world between the Civil War and World War II, and many of the practices that kind of were in place then that we can still see reverberating today. So I thought it's been fairly enlightening for me. And on the other side of the world, I've been watching all the Marvel movies because now I need truth, justice, and the American way. So that's been kind of what's been keeping me going lately. So.
I love the rationale. Okay, next on the list is Kevin's iPad, but I think we'd rather talk to Kevin.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
My name's Kevin Amia. I'm on the J. Westfield School Board. I've been a board member there for about 10 years, and been on the VSBA for just about 1 year. It's been very enlightening and educational. I live in Westfield with my wife, Christine, and my 2 children, one in college, one a senior in high school, both having challenging years, but getting through it, as we all are. In my free time, I do a lot of running, I do a lot of hiking, and a lot of mountain biking. And I would say last year, 2019, I did the Vermont 50. So that was one of the highlights of my life. And yeah, that's just looking forward to the future.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. Kim.
Sorry, it always takes me a second to unmute. I apologize. Kim Gleason from Essex, and I serve on the Essex Westford School District Board. I've been serving on the school board in Essex for, I think it'll be 14 years this spring, and on the VSBA board for, I think, the last 8 years. I have 4 kids, now pretty grown up, a sophomore in college, a senior in college, a son who was working in New York City, who's now working from home with us, a daughter who finished her graduate degree and is a nurse practitioner in pediatrics down in Baltimore. So pretty cool stuff through that. And one of my exciting accomplishments during this pandemic was to have finished my yoga teacher training remotely. So I was, it was a pretty flexible program. I've been working on it for a while, chose it to be flexible because of the, interesting conflicts and commitments of our family, but really excited to have finished that. I am reading Untamed by Glennon Doyle, which is an interesting book of sort of self-discovery, and maybe in some ways the ways we find ourselves sort of programmed to be tamed, but how we can liberate ourselves. I read Just Mercy this summer and loved it. And that was Brian Stevenson. It was really remarkable to me, some of the ways that Alabama justice wreaks havoc on those Black folks at the time, and that setting of that time was like late 80s. It could have been the 50s the way you were reading it, and I'm currently excited to have our board together reading Stamped by Jason Reynolds and Ibram Kendi. So that is also great reading and enlightening. Our family really enjoys Cheaper by the Dozen movies and grown-ups movies, but in my house right now are my husband and my son, so there's a lot of sports, whatever that is, version going on our television. So
great, thanks. And now to Dawn's earlier point, we're going to hit up the marks. We'll start with Mark Schauber.
Hi, Mark Schauber. I live in Dover in southern Vermont. I'm on the River Valleys School Board and the Wyndham Central Supervisory Union Board. I'm probably one of the newest Vermonters here. I've been here now for about 6 years. Moved here from New York City. Number 4 seems to be the number of careers a lot of people have had, including myself. I started out the University of Michigan designing their athletic department website back in the early 90s. We were the first collegiate website to have live statistics. So I was very proud of that. I've been a paramedic in New York City, ran a IT business, and most recently I started and run a nonprofit that provides financial support to volunteer ambulance services. In my spare time, I've been working with my ends building a house, which I'm at the tail end of, thankfully. Have not had a whole lot of time to watch TV or read, but I have been, like Carrie, been rewatching West Wing. Made me feel like there's, I like to pretend that that's reality these days. So yeah.
Thanks. Which mark are we up to now? Let me see. I lost my list. Mark Nielsen.
Hello, all. I'm Mark Nielsen. I'm on the school board, Lamoille North. Some of you have been around a little bit, know that I work for Border Patrol as an analyst, so I do all the reading I want to there. I have a wife, 2 daughters, soon to be 2 granddaughters and a grandson, 2 of which are in Texas. You'll see me leave the meeting tonight a little bit before 7. I just got appointed to the Racial Justice Committee here in Johnson, so I'll be working with them as well. My hope there is to take some of those pieces along with the pieces I hear from you folks and bring them into some sort of a curriculum fashion within the Lamoille school system to help things out from that perspective. I've kind of gone back in time. I'm a huge William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy fan for Star Trek. So I watch that, and I'm a huge MacGyver fan. The Richard Dean Anderson style. So other than that, wife and I had fun all summer on motorcycles, and as we closed the state down and everybody around us, we just stayed local. And that's me.
Great, thanks, Mark. And Mark Clough.
Hi, everyone. I'm in Peacham School District and vice chair of our new huge supervisory union, Caledonia Central. Professionally, I'm a commercial lender. Love working with businesses throughout Vermont and New Hampshire. Get to work with a lot of dynamic people. Alchemist, a whole bunch of really fun ones. Breweries are great. And that's fun to see around the state and another aspect to the economy. Recently finished the latest biography on Abraham Lincoln. Thought he was a swell guy, learned a lot about him, but the interesting thing was the dynamics of what was happening to the country at that point in time. And I just found so many parallels with what we're going through right now and, you know, possible succession and everything. So every time we think we're reinventing the wheel, it's happened before, and you've got to pay attention to history and learn from it. One of the more inspiring things lately is the Netflix movie, I Am Woman. It's about Helen Reddy. It's got a lot of music in it, and she had quite a story that I didn't know about. And it's a really, really good movie. That's all I've got. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you. Nancy, we haven't forgotten about you.
Unmute. There. Hi, I'm Nancy Russell. I serve with the Hartford School District, and we're I think we're the only one that just covers, or in this situation, that our school district is also just the middle school, the high school, and the 3 elementary schools in Hartford. We don't have any other schools that come in or that I'm responsible for. So I'm a past district governor for Rotary. I serve on the board of directors for Prevent Child Abuse Vermont. I'm the chair for the Hartford Community Coalition here in Hartford. I also was instrumental with several other people here to establish Take Bite Out of Hunger, and that was about 4 or 5 years ago. This past summer, in 9 weeks, we served just short of 29,000 meals throughout the summer to make sure that the families and the kids in our location had food. My husband are also emergency foster care parents. I am also involved, who was it? Mark Nielsen was fixing to be involved in the DEI stuff, and I'm also very involved in that. I'm part of it for our school district. I'm part of it for our local Hartford Community Coalition. I'm also part of it for Rotary, for our district, which covers the southern half of Vermont and the southern half of Maryland. I have 3 grandchildren. I am a retired rescue scuba diver, a skydiver. I had 2 heart attacks in 2004, so that kind of put a stop to some of those things that I really truly enjoyed, which was those 2 things especially. The book that I read this summer that I really liked is called The Woman Who Smashed Codes, and it was about Elizabeth Smith, and it was written by Jason Fagan, and it talks about her life as one of the very first code breakers that our government actually trained and finally recognized after many horrific things that had happened to her during the war. And it was really good. Both my son and his wife work in the DC area, and this is one of the areas that they do work in. So it was real interesting to me. And then that got me involved in some of the others, which coincidentally happened to also like the code breakers and let's see, A Woman of No Importance have been made into movies and have been made into some series, and they're mostly coming from on the British side of the TV, which is where my favorite part to watch on TV are some of the British shows. And that's me.
Great, thanks, Nancy. Tara.
I was hoping you'd forget, Susan.
Sorry.
Tara Sweet. I'm at the Fletcher School District and also the Franklin West School District. Our supervisory union was the only one that, or one of the only ones that were not merged. We applied for alternative structure and were able to stay as we are. It's my 5th year on the school board and coming up on my 3rd year as chair. My husband and I have 3 daughters, and he operates a dairy farm with his parents here in Fletcher. And my oldest is a freshman at UVM, and I have a sophomore and a 7th grader currently at our sending school, which is BFA Fairfax. What I've done is I've actually watched a lot of Netflix and Hulu series that I've started and never finished. So I've finished a bunch of those up, and there are too many to list. But the current one I just watched was The Queen's Gambit, it's about a phenomenal chess player. And that was a pretty interesting weekend binge. So there you go.
Great, thanks. And I believe I have now talked to everybody except Neil. So if I'm wrong, please let me know. But that said, Neil, I'm going to turn it back over to you, and you can introduce yourself and then take over the meeting.
All right. And did we forget anybody? Okay. Nicely done then, Susan. So my name is Neil Odell. I am your VSBA board president, at least until next August. So you're stuck with me until then. I live in Norwich, sit on the Norwich School Board, as well as the Dresden Interstate School District Board. Norwich pairs up with Hanover, New Hampshire for our Interstate School District. I have twin boys who are 16, juniors in high school. At the moment, I'm in the middle of reading a book called The Quiet Americans, which focuses on 4 American spies right at the tail end of World War II, and also covers the initial formation of the CIA. So far that's been just interesting enough, but it helps me fall asleep at night as well too, as I'm reading those pages just before going to bed. 2 series that one I'm in the middle of right now called The Long Way Up on Apple TV. If you haven't seen it, Ewan McGregor and one of his high school or childhood pals use electric motorcycles and ride from the very tip of South America all the way up to Los Angeles over 100 days. The scenery is absolutely stunning. And the people that they meet along the way really enhances the story. The second one that I would highly recommend, if you haven't seen it yet, on Netflix, a short series called Unorthodox, about a Hasidic Jewish woman who flees an arranged marriage in Brooklyn, New York, and heads to Berlin, and is sort of, I guess, is tracked down. I won't really reveal too much of the plot, but very well done miniseries, I thought. That is me. That is all of us. Thank you so much for giving us a little view into yourselves. And I certainly appreciate all the time that I know you're about to embark and spend on the VSBA over this next year. So thank you very much. We are a little bit behind schedule. So what I'm going to do at this point is rearrange our agenda slightly because we are anticipating 2 candidates for the Healthcare Bargaining Commission seat that's available to join us, one at 5:50, and then the other candidate is supposed to join us at 6:10. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sue to actually see if we could squeeze in the strategic plan monitoring report prior to our first candidate showing up, and then we will circle back after viewing both candidates and pick it up with a VSBA board and a review of the board handbook.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks, Neil. So the VSBA Strategic Plan Monitoring Report is item 4 on your agenda. The VSBA has a strategic plan. It was most recently modified in January of this year. And the report in your packet is the tool that we use to monitor our progress on the goal areas of member engagement, education leadership, support for good governance, educational equity, labor relations, and internal management. For our newer members, this report is included in the board packet for most of the meetings that the board has. And today I'd just like to highlight a few areas from the report. Under member engagement, there was an increase in the number of voting delegates at the annual meeting from 29 in 2018 to 31 in 2019 and 37 in 2020. So we're very happy to see that increase in participation, and hopefully we can get it even higher in 2021. Under education leadership, I would like to highlight that the VSBA is continuing to participate in an advisory group, which meets with Secretary French weekly on the COVID-19 pandemic and recovery related issues. There's also a lot for me to report under support for good governance, including that the VSBA staff will have conducted 3 virtual customized essential work of school boards workshops for school boards by the end of November. The staff has held 3 webinars since the board last met, partnering with the Vermont Department of Health, Joint Fiscal Office, Agency of Education, the Superintendent's Association, the Principals Association, Vermont Council of Special Education Administrators, and the Vermont Association of School Business Officials to provide updates on critical public health information, a legislative recap, and budgeting information. And also under support for good governance, VSBA has completed a policy review for one supervisory district and has a policy review underway for another supervisory union, and has added a new model policy to the model policy manual since the VSBA board last met. That new model policy is homeless students. There's much more information in the report. I hope you'll take a look at it. I won't review all of it, but wanted to let you know about those highlights. So thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Any questions from any board members on the strategic plan monitoring report? Okay, seeing none then. We're going to move in then to interview process for our Act 11 Bargaining Commission applicants. I think that most all of you know, but maybe just a brief recap if you don't. So back in 2018, the legislature passed Act 11, which included in it the establishment of this statewide healthcare bargaining commission. The commission consists of 10 members, 5 of which are appointed by this organization, the VSBA, 4 of which are appointed by Vermont NEA, and 1 appointed by AFSCME, who is I think the second largest school employee labor union in the state. So we have an opening in one of the commissioners that this organization is responsible for appointing, and we have 2 applicants for that position. Our first applicant, if I take a quick look, I see she is here with us already in the meeting, Kathy Galuzzo. Kathy, I don't know.
Hello.
Do I see Kathy?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Susan, I think you
There,
need
now
to
I see
mute
Kathy.
or to pause the recording.
Yeah, do we want to pause? I know that we'll want to pause it for consideration of the candidates. I didn't know if we needed to pause it actually for just the interview process as well, Sue.
You can do it either way.
Okay. I think my preference would be to, if we can continue the recording just to the interview process. These are set questions that we ask both candidates. I don't think there's anything in here that's that would be in need of an executive session at this point. So, Kathy, thanks for joining us. Thanks for taking time out this evening. I have a quick set of questions that we just want to ask you.
Okay.
All right, and we'll just get started. The first one is, could you describe your interest in serving on the commission as an employer commissioner?
Our school board for at least the last
4 or 5 times we've negotiated. I've been doing it for a long time. I think it's important to have a statewide health insurance plan, but I also think it's important to keep our costs down and be diligent in that.
Thank you. I will let, if board members have a follow-up that they want to ask, the quickest way for me is if you could raise your blue hand in Zoom. It'll make it easier for me to see who would like to chime in. And I will say that only with the caveat that we just want to make some efficient use of our time this evening. So I don't want to discourage you from asking follow-up questions, but if it's already been asked, then maybe we'll hold off. I don't see any at the moment. So I will move on to our next question is, what skills and experience would you be able to bring to the commission?
So I kind of covered that I've been on the negotiations team for a long time. I'm chair of the negotiations team in our district right now. I also am insurance licensed with property casualty and health. So I have experience in insurance. And I enjoy negotiating.
She enjoys negotiating, folks. You heard her say it actually out loud.
I know it's really weird, but I don't mind doing it. I think there's a way to come to an agreement. It just takes work.
Thanks. Any follow-ups from any board members on that question? Oh, George, go ahead.
Yes, Kathy, with under Act 11, do you think there has been any savings to speak of so far with you negotiating for all the teacher and districts so far?
No, I think it's cost us more. But
what would you do to get some savings?
Find a way to change plans, maybe try to find different carriers. I'm not really sure what the solution is unless we're negotiating. I don't know what all the options are to discuss yet in that process.
Okay, thank you.
Colleen, go ahead.
Hi, Kathy. Thank you for coming here tonight. I'm just curious about your experience with insurance and knowing that there are a lot of different kinds of insurance out there. Could you just tell us a little bit about your particular area of expertise in the field of insurance?
I'm in sales for insurance. I sell, we don't sell health insurance, but we have to be licensed in health, life and health insurance, but we sell life insurance. So I'm more in the property and casualty, but I used to do human resources where we worked with insurance companies. So I do have health insurance experience and the coverages and the copays and the things like that. Does that answer your question?
I'm sorry, would you mind elaborating a little bit more related to the HR insurance?
So I would set people up on plans, help them pick plans. When I worked in human resources, you mean? Is that what you're?
Yes, just
a
little bit.
Yeah, so I help the company find insurance carriers. And then I also, in that role, once we had insurance, I was human resources for the employees we had there. We had about 20 employees and helped them pick their plans and then help them through if there were claims and things that they couldn't figure out how to follow that process.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thanks.
Any other follow-ups? Okay, we'll move on to the next question, which is, could you describe how you see the primary role of the employer commissioners?
To act on behalf of the boards of the employers to get a good price and coverages that we can afford to continue paying. And that's the one thing that's out of our control as a cost, and it still seems to be out of our control, even though we're at a statewide plan now. It didn't seem to get under control. So I'm willing to work back and forth both sides. I definitely don't come with an agenda, but I do think that we need to find a way to get the costs where we can afford them.
Thank you. Any follow-up from board members on that one? Okay. Last question from what we've got here is, what would you like to accomplish during your service on the commission?
A contract that both the employer and the teachers are happy with, an agreement.
Thanks. Any board members have any other follow-up? We've got a little bit of time, Kathy, and I didn't give you a chance really to sort of introduce yourself at the beginning. If you give us a little bit of background, maybe beyond what you provided initially there.
Sure. I'm on the First Branch. I'm chair of the First Branch Unified District. I'm also chair of the full board for the White River Valley Supervisory Union. Can you still hear me? My thing. Well, there we go.
Yeah, we still got you.
I've been doing the board for a long time. Like I said, we've been at impasse a few times, but we work really hard to get to a resolution. And I think I'm good at that. I'm good at listening to both sides. I really appreciate that you guys let me come in and interview tonight. My job is flexible, not flexible that I can go anywhere, but I can get on a Zoom meeting. I can close my door for a couple hours and get on a Zoom meeting, so I can be flexible and be able to attend all of the meetings that I'm needed to attend. Rather than that, I'm not. Any other things you want to know about me?
Neil?
Yes, Don, go ahead.
Kathy, have you found the minutes and any information about what this commission's been doing the past year, such as some insights into how they are working effectively or maybe not working as well as you would like?
Honestly, I have not looked at those, but I would definitely look at those before I started.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board members?
It's been a long time since I've interviewed for anything, now that I think about it. I've been at my job for 14 years now, so.
Yeah. Flor, do you have a question?
Yeah, since we all just did it, what are you reading right now? What are you reading right now?
Yeah, if you missed the first part of our meeting tonight, actually, a few of the board members here are brand new. Were just elected at their regional representative meeting back in November. So this is their very first VSBA board meeting. We did a little icebreaker early on, asking folks either what they're currently reading or like a TV show or a movie that they have really gotten into recently.
Well, as I spend many hours a day at work and at school board meetings, I'm not reading anything, but I am watching NCIS as a show that my kids got me hooked on. So they tell me I'm binge watching it. So, but yeah, I like to read mysteries. When I do read mysteries, murder mysteries, and I like detective shows. But lately I've been watching lots of NCIS because the news is very discouraging.
Any other questions from board members? Well, we still have Richard. I'm not seeing anything. Kathy, thank you very much for taking time out tonight to come meet with us and answer a few questions. We really appreciate it.
All right, you guys have a great night.
Thanks.
Enjoy the rest of your meeting. Thank you.
Okay, board. So we have one other candidate who is Gio Honigford, for those of you who have met him before or know of him, and actually a current member of the Bargaining Commission, past VSBA board member, past VSBA president. We asked him to join us at 6:10 this evening, so we have a little bit of time. I don't know if folks wanted to, I think it would actually be appropriate if we could turn off the recording at this point. I would ask maybe for any impressions or thoughts. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I did text Gio to see if he could sign on now.
Oh, okay.
So, but I'm not sure if that'll happen or not.
Okay, let's hold off then on any of the comments about Kathy if we see Gio pop into the meeting here. There's a lot going on. We've got the appointment to the commission. We will also ask you later on this evening to vote to elect members to the VSBA Executive Committee, which we realize is a pretty heavy lift for being your first meeting and probably not really knowing too many of your colleagues across the Zoom screen this evening. But it is how we have handled things the past few years. So it's on the agenda this evening. Yeah, Kim.
Thanks. I was going to suggest, if Gio isn't hopping on right now, I wonder if we should go through the VHI board position. Can we do that in 10 minutes, probably? The format that we intend to use for that?
Yeah, I think so. I got 6:03. So if board members want to go to your packet. And go to the, it was the item in the section in there, which is a VSBA process for filling VHI board positions. This is yet another responsibility of the VSBA board. Oh, and Gio is joining us right now. I see him popping in. Got audio now, Gio? Although I think you're muted.
Now I'm on.
Okay, perfect.
What a familiar bunch of faces.
You should see some new ones here, though, too.
I do. Yeah. Excellent.
Welcome, sir. Thanks for taking some time out tonight to meet with us. I have 4 questions for you related to the position, and I'm just going to get right into it.
Before we go any further, did Sue tell you my position on the position?
It is known to me, but if you want to make it known to the VSBA board, please go right ahead.
Okay, so it will not break my heart if I am not chosen. So I am not actively lobbying to get this spot. I did serve on it for the last year or so. I'm doing this to make sure that you have somebody who's a decent candidate. So if you didn't have any other good candidates, then you could fall back with me. But if you think that somebody else is capable of doing this, it will not break my heart in any manner, shape, or form if you don't select me.
All right, thank you for that. With that, though, don't tank these questions, okay? Take them seriously.
I will.
Okay, thank you. Question number 1, could you describe your interest in serving on the commission as an employer commissioner?
I think I've just done that. So I am interested, but I think there's a good chance there's a better candidate out there, because I find that the longer I'm no longer on a school board, and the longer I'm away from a school board, I feel more disconnected, shall we say. I don't think I'm so far removed from a school board that I don't understand what's going on. That's not a problem. But I do think that there might be a better candidate out there.
Okay. Any board members have any follow-up on that one? Yeah, George.
I'll ask the same question I asked of the other candidate. Do you think there's been any savings in negotiating for the whole state so far?
No.
Do you think there's any possible?
Yes.
And how would that come about?
Well, it's the way we're almost likely to go to binding arbitration every time. I don't see the NEA as being a collaborative partner in this process. And what happened is the arbitrator has to pick one side or the other. They can't make say, I like this piece over here and that piece there. They have to, it's a wholesale purchase of one plan or another. And they went, the arbitrator went with their plan. Why? We don't know, because the arbitrator didn't give any reasoning whatsoever as to why they did it. So we don't know why our plan was not accepted. We thought it was quite reasonable.
Any other?
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Don, go ahead.
Gio, to that last point you just made, the legislature changed that so that whoever does the arbitration has to give a rationale for how they reached the decision? Is that true?
Sue might know more about this than I would, but the last I heard, that was in a bill in the legislature. And we as employer commissioners, there was other things in that bill that would not have really fixed the problem. And we were hesitant to say that bill should be passed, because then the legislature, in our opinion, would say, oh, great, we fixed all the problems. We don't need to visit this again for 5 years. And the problems were so outstanding that we said, don't pass that bill. So unless something happened that I'm not familiar with, I don't think that is part of the plan.
Right, that bill did not pass.
Colleen.
Gio, I'm wondering if you could, negotiations, it's a process and sometimes things go well, sometimes they don't go well. Could you share with us what you think has been successful in the past negotiations so far?
Well, I think it was a great team that we had. I thought we all did a really good job of listening to each other. I think there were points in time where people had different points of view and were able to listen to everybody. And then in the end, we always coalesced behind one set of ideas. So I think that really went well. I think the potential is still there in terms of a statewide healthcare bargaining. Under the current framework, it's sort of an all or nothing deal that they could have easily have chosen our plan. Why, we don't know. And then there would have been significant savings across the state.
And if I could just ask a follow-up question, what do you think contributed to a congenial atmosphere, it sounds like, in the negotiations?
Well, in our team, we had congenial an atmosphere. Just a group of people. I think it was a group of veteran board members who understand their role and are good at listening and bringing in expertise. The legal counsel we had, I thought, did a great job, and our numbers guy was really good as well. So.
Okay. And just, quick follow-up, the flip side of it, I'm assuming from what you've said already that what did not go well is just it didn't turn in your favor, in the team's favor.
I'd like to tell you why, but we don't know.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'm going to move on now. Question number 2. What skills and experience would you bring to the commission?
Well, I've been on the commission for about 1.5 years. So I've been through the process once, and I was a board member for 13 years. I've negotiated, I think, 4 contracts over that time period with and using various techniques. So I have pretty extensive experience at this.
Thanks. Any follow-ups from board members on that one? All right, seeing none, moving on to, could you describe how you see the primary role of the employer commissioners?
The primary role?
Yeah.
The employer to come up with a fair settlement. I don't know. I guess to put a feeler out there to find out what the pulse is in the state, what board members are saying, what they would like to see, and then trying to achieve that. But a fair settlement. The NEA is quite ruthless and very good at getting what they want. So yeah, that's it.
Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, Gio, just curious your thoughts as to, is there actually any chance at real negotiations with the other side, with the employee commissioners? I'm, honest question.
No, it's. I laugh. I think on more of the minor issues, yes, there is room to reach consensus and solve things. I think again, when I said the NEA is quite ruthless, I think that they don't want to have us reach any kind of consensus. That if if that is the case, if they feel that, oh, we could reach consensus if we did this, I think they would then hold their ground because they don't want to achieve that.
Dave Sharp, go ahead.
Can you give me some indication of where the savings would have occurred had you said if the arbitrator had gone with our plan, the school board's plan, there would have been savings. Can you give me some idea where those savings would occur?
So this is where I have not done my homework. By the way, it looks like you got off the legislature and went on to the school board, huh? I can't remember. I'm not even going to lie to you. I could have went back and looked at my notes, and I didn't. So it won't take me long to refresh my memory, but I don't remember. It's been I don't know, 6-8 months since we went through all that, so it's been a while, longer than that even.
Yeah. Okay. Any other follow-ups from board members? All right. Final question. What would you like to accomplish during your service on the commission?
Just a fair settlement. I'm not out to gouge the union people, teachers, staff members. That's not my intent at all. But at the same time, we have to reach a settlement that we can all afford. And it doesn't take much math if you look at what's happening to school boards across the state just in negotiations, is that we're getting beat up and we're on an unsustainable path. If you do the math, we're going to be priced out in a short period of time. We need to do something. I'm not saying that, and I think historically teachers have been under rewarded for their services, but now I think they've reached a stage where they've got pretty decent compensation, especially in the top parts of the scale. The bottom parts of the scale have a ways to go. But I think you got to look at the whole package there of salary and healthcare to really see what we should do next. So I don't think I couldn't come in right now and say, oh, this is definitely what we need to achieve when we go negotiate again. I think you'd have to come in and say, okay, what are the settlements coming in at? What are the percentage increases coming in at? What's happening to healthcare in order to figure out where we need to go. But it's definitely not. I'm not trying to cut anything to the bone and trying to hurt people. That's definitely not my intent.
Thanks. Any board member follow up on that? Yeah, Mark.
Thanks. Hey, what's the value of holding the team together and having some of the same members and the continuity around that? Is the law firm really kind of driving everything and looking for your input so it wouldn't matter?
No, the law firm is not driving everything. I would look at it as the same way that you have a relationship with your superintendent. You have someone in the room who is quite knowledgeable about negotiations and things like that, or in the superintendent's case, curriculum or whatever. And they need to be listened to. But it's very clear who's driving that train. It's the commissioners are making the decisions. I think you could easily replace me if you have a good candidate. That's what I suggest you do, is replace me and put that other person on. Having a team that works together, I think, is, as you know, being board members, if you have a 5-person board and you have a person who's very difficult to deal with, that it just makes life harder than it has to be. But I think there's lots of people out there who are team players. I'm not the only one. So it's not going to break my heart. It's weird being interviewed for a position that I'm not overly crazy to acquire. But if there's no other good candidates, then I suggest you maybe think about me. But other than that, if you got another good candidate, go with them.
Thanks. Don, go ahead.
So Gio, let's step back maybe 3 or 4 years ago. You're president of VSBA and you have candidates for something this important who've been there and learned the ropes. Would you encourage that person to continue as a VSBA president? Because I'm sitting here, as you know, I've been fairly active. I've known you for a long while, and I'm thinking, gee, Gio learned the process this last year and a half. We should keep him there for continuity and support, rather than getting somebody who's going to go in probably not knowing a whole lot about it. So I just thought I would throw that out there. I don't really expect you have to answer it, but I know Gio, the former president, I think had strong feelings about getting good people and keeping them there.
Yeah, you know, the person I would trust Adrian's opinion on this a lot. So when you go to caucus about this, I think that's a good question for her.
Fair answer, Gio.
Any other follow-ups for Gio? Anything else, Gio, that you want to share with the board?
Just that the position does take up quite a bit of time, and it is supposed to be compensated. And I forget what the compensation we got, but it was rudimentary at best. I make more in a couple hours than my daily per diem, would suggest there. So I'm not saying it should be a cash cow for anybody, but it needs to be compensated at a level that someone can afford to lose, half a day here, or in fact, whole days that we lost doing this. So I would suggest that we think about a better system there.
Thanks for that. Any final questions from board members? All right. Oh, Flor, go ahead.
I guess this asks Gio the same question. Hi, Gio.
Hey, Flor.
What are you reading, or what series has kept you going through the pandemic?
What work? I just put my head down and I am working like a dog. So I bought, so I'm a farmer and my farming season is coming to a close. I bought not one, but 2 houses to rehab. So I have tons of work and I just work all the time. No kids at home. So I'm just kind of burying myself in work. I know it's not a fun answer, is it?
No,
I like working, so.
Good. Thanks for taking the time tonight to chat with us. We really appreciate it.
Okay. All right.
And, we'll
Good luck on your decision.
Thank
you.
you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Gio.
So now I think if we could, Carrie, I will wait for you to start the recording.
Wait, can I ask a question? Do we
Started.
come out of executive session for the vote, or do we come out of it with the result? I know we don't normally vote in executive session, but I don't really know.
So you would come out of executive session and someone would make a motion to appoint a certain person to the position.
So
and then
this
vote on that
vote,
motion.
this vote does not need to be recorded.
I think what
That's
we're
what
saying is that I don't necessarily need to have you vote for either candidate in executive session. I think if a board member is willing to make a motion, now that we are back in public session, we could handle it that way.
Yeah, you
But we
need
didn't-
to vote out of executive session, not in. Right?
Sorry, I think we're getting a little confused on 2 things. What I was about to do was to bring up each candidate and see how many numbers of votes each one got, and then that would be the selection. Really, the more proper way I think to do this is we'll vote to re-enter public session, and I will just bear in mind, like, we are not a public body, folks. Like the same rules of open meeting don't apply here, but we also are trying to be transparent for our membership. So coming out then of executive session, we finished our discussion on the candidates. If we come out, we're in public session. If a board member would like to make a motion for a candidate to fill that seat, we could entertain it that way. Mark?
I'll move that we appoint Geo to the open commission seat.
Okay.
A second.
Seconded by Nancy. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, actually, you can just go ahead and raise your hand. I can see everybody's face on the screen.
Except for Judy and Mark.
Oh, sorry, except for Judy and Mark. But I see that they are both raising their Zoom hands, so I can count them that way. Okay. I got all of those. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. So it looks like Geo has been selected to fill the open seat on the statewide health bargaining commission. Thank you, board.
Thank you to both candidates as well.
Yes, we will follow up with both candidates and certainly thank them for their interest in the position and let them know the outcome of the board's selection. So now, Sue, if it's okay with you, I think what I want to do is just quickly jump into the VHI board selection process, and then we'll circle back to role of the board, if that's okay with you.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. So board members, the one other item, the one other seat on an organization that this board is responsible for appointing is that of the VHI board. This board, VSBA board, has previously decided that the appointment of that seat will be handled by the executive committee. That will be the executive committee that you will elect later on this evening. But one of the things that I realized after our last meeting was that we really didn't have a documented process for how that will go. So I got together with the executive committee, discussed this with Sue, and we came up with this following process that is included in your packet this evening for making appointments to the VHI board. It covers, description of VHI, a little bit about the work that it does, the legal requirements for appointments to the board. Thank you for sharing. And then if we scroll down, it also then covers the board delegation that they've made to the executive committee to make that selection. And then a little bit about the process that the executive committee will follow when making those appointments. I wanted to present that to the board this evening just to let them know that we now have a documented process for handling applications for the VHI board. I would invite any comments on it, but this is the process that we intend to use then for going into December when the executive committee will then go through the applicants and make an appointment to the VHI board. All right. Anything about the process any board member would like to comment on? Okay.
Neil, the timeline is for the executive committee in December. Do we know if we already have applicants who, knowing it's vacant, have submitted applications, or will we continue to accept applications?
I'll double check with Sue. I know that we certainly have folks that are interested, but because we've now just got this new process, we'll have them, go through the sort of the formal application process. But we do know we have had folks that have expressed interest.
Yeah, so we haven't opened up the formal process yet, but we will after this meeting.
Okay. All right, awesome. With that, then we're going to roll back in time with the agenda and move to the item to discuss the role of the VSBA board. And I believe I'll turn it over to Sue for that one.
Okay, thank you. So hopefully everyone received their board handbook in the mail this week. We hope that you find it to be a useful resource. This is a brand new updated board handbook, which we do every year when there's any changes to the resolutions or the bylaws, we update the handbook. So
Sue,
yes.
Can we just ask if anyone did not receive it? looks like everyone, okay, thanks.
Were we supposed to get a new hard copy? Because I did not receive one recently.
Yes, I mailed them out last week, so you should have received it, Don. If you don't receive it in the next few days, please let me know and I'll definitely send another one to you. Yes, that David Chandler's holding up what
Okay.
it should look like.
No, we have temporary carriers, so it's not unusual. Things get here a day or two late.
Okay, if you don't get anything in a couple days, let me know.
So the new updated handbook has the up-to-date resolutions that were adopted just a few weeks ago at the annual meeting. It also has the history of the VSBA, the vision and mission of the VSBA, governance information, the bylaws. The organization has policies, so that's not the model policy manual that you look at when you're doing your board policies. These are the policies of the VSBA as an association. And it also has some information on board member roles and responsibilities. So on that topic of board member roles and responsibilities, we have prepared a short presentation, and Susan is going to be sharing that on the screen with you. It should go, that's not the first slide though. That looks like we're on about slide 5 or 6 right now. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Can you go to the next one, please? So the VSBA, just especially for our newer members, we wanted to let you know that we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We were incorporated in 1961, and you can see the purposes on this slide that were the purposes set out for the association. It's governed by a board of directors, which is all of you, and a set of bylaws, which are modified from time to time by our membership. So anytime there's a change in the bylaws, it's voted on by the member delegates at our annual meeting. Next slide, please. VSBA is governed by Vermont law regarding nonprofits, which is in Title 11B in the Vermont Statutes Annotated, which states that someone who's on the board of directors of a nonprofit shall discharge their duties as a director, including as a member of a committee, in good faith, with the care of an ordinarily prudent person in like position, and in a manner that they believe to be in the best interests of the association. Next slide, please. In 2016, the VSBA board adopted a code of ethics that includes a clear set of expectations for board members and a process for resolving issues at the board level. And that code of ethics is in the board handbook that you should have received in the mail. The policies, it's part of the policies at the end of the handbook. It's on page 10 of the policies. And it tracks Vermont statute and case law governing the 3 duties of directors of nonprofit boards. Next slide, please. The first is a duty of care. Next slide, please. Oh, there we go. Sorry. To take care of the association by ensuring prudent use of its assets, including its facilities, its people, and the goodwill of the association, and also providing oversight that ensures that the association advances its effectiveness and its sustainability. Next slide. Okay, you can fill that one in. There we go. Board members have a duty of loyalty under nonprofit law to make decisions that are in the best interest of the association, not in individual self-interest, including personal and financial interests, and also to have a duty to avoid taking any actions that compromise the authority of the full board to make decisions on behalf of the association. Next slide, please. And the last one is called duty of obedience, and this really has to do with board members ensuring that the association follows the law and its own bylaws and conduct themselves in adherence with the policies of the association, which, as I noted, are at the back of the handbook, and don't engage in any activities that would harm the association's ability to pursue its mission. Next slide. So what is an association? It is a group of people who voluntarily come together to solve common problems, meet common needs, and accomplish goals. And we hope that you'll really enjoy the work you do in that regard on the VSBA board. Next slide. Can you fill that one in, Susan? So we wanted to talk a little bit about the governance model and whose interests do you represent on the VSBA board? Is it the region or component of members that sent you, or is it the association as an organization? Next slide, please. Transparency and trust in Transparency and trust in governance occurs when board members understand the difference between representative for versus representative of. Next slide. If board members believe that they are representative for, they see themselves as elected representatives of a particular constituency and only voice the interests or opinions of that constituency and vote on behalf of that constituency's interests. Next slide. Board members who view their role as representative of voice interests and opinions of those that they know best and vote on behalf of the best overall interests of the organization. Next slide. So the VSBA bylaws really define your role, and they state that the board is responsible for oversight of the organization. It must assure that the organization has a clear vision and goals, that the association is fulfilling its mission, it's fiscally sound, and has a strong connection with the membership. As regional representatives, you will be developing liaison relationship with the boards in your area, promoting local board involvement in the VSBA, and hearing their concerns and inputs on matters of public policy. Next slide. So we've shared with you in an email, hopefully all of you have received it by now. Carrie was doing them right before the meeting started. So you will have an email from Carrie that provides you with the email addresses of the board members in your region to facilitate your communications with them. And we ask that when you do communicate with them, that you please copy me and Neil on all of those regional communications. Tonight, what we're going to do is you don't necessarily have to send the email tonight, but we're going to put you in breakout rooms by region so you can talk for a few minutes among your with the other person who represents your region to make a plan for ongoing communications and outreach to your fellow representatives. And also wanted to let you know that January is School Board Appreciation Month. So probably next month, we're going to be suggesting that you send a little email out to your region about that. This is the last slide, and just provide some information about board member staff communications. The staff report to me as the executive director, and I report to the board. If a board member has a request for staff to perform work outside of a task assigned by the board or me, it should be raised at a board meeting for full discussion by the board. Please copy me on any email communications that you have with the staff. And if you ever have any concerns or questions about the VSBA, please bring them directly to me so that they can be resolved quickly. Thank you very much for that. So at this point, we can facilitate the movement of the regional reps into their breakout room. I'm not involved with those meetings, so I think it would be Susan.
Yeah, we did talk about that, Judy. I don't think anything got resolved about it. And as I recall, it was Kevin Hansen who indicated that he does that, or he was doing that independently. And of course, he chose to leave the board. So we don't have a plan in place to actually institutionalize that, but I'm hoping to convene that committee again very shortly, and we can talk about that further. Oh, cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. Kim, go ahead.
Colleen and I were just talking about collaborating with Jeremy from Chittenden West. And knowing he doesn't have a partner in that region just yet. Because I don't know if I've got his contact information, I guess. I'm sure I could probably look it up because I wrote down that he was from Milton, but I'm wondering if there are other regions where there's either an east-west or north-south or such proximity in our new region structure where teaming with a nearby region makes sense. Just a thought.
I think that Western Chittenden is our only vacancy on the board, so I think everyone else should have a partner. Am I right?
I think you're right, Carrie.
Carrie, I've been following that. I think you are right. We've been able to fill all the other positions.
Okay.
Thank
so
you.
we'll-
I'll definitely make sure we reach out to Jeremy though.
Yeah. Any other questions related to the regional outreach?
Yeah, just so you know, Kim, the plan was to put him in the room with you guys tonight, so.
Okay. Seeing none, then I'm going to go back to our agenda. And I think we are at board retreat planning, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, I think you're right, Neil. I have a little bit of information I can report there if you would like.
Please.
Yesterday, I sent an email to all of you with the dates of the retreat. It's going to be 2 3-hour sessions, and the first session is going to be on January 13th from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. That is our regular board meeting date. And then the next session will be January 15th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. That was the date that the most people were available from the board. So as I said, it's going to be 2 3-hour sessions. It's going to be facilitated by 2 staff members of the Arizona School Boards Association, which is a state school board association that is leading the nation in equity work. The retreat is going to focus on equity from the association's perspective. And there'll be some discussion around the VSBA's role to support member districts in their equity work. And the content will include a focus on why equity and what is equity, so that there's a strong understanding of the importance of this work for school districts and how broad the work is. And we'll also be spending some time looking at the VSBA's work that it does through an equity lens and how to handle challenges with implementing the work. So embarking on this work is very exciting, and we're going to have some more to report on the retreat at the December meeting, but wanted to let you know that the planning is well underway.
Thank you, Sue. Board members have any questions related to the retreat planning? I will say, I know Sue and staff have been very impressed with the Arizona School Boards Association, and you know, their work. They've actually attended their session already, their training session, and so we're pretty excited to be able to bring that to Vermont and for all of you as well too. So hopefully it should be a good experience. I think there might be a little homework in advance, but I think we'll get that out to you as soon as possible so that you're not busy trying to cram it all in right after the holidays. All right. To the executive committee election. So just procedurally for board members, I know if we were in person, we would typically do this via paper secret ballot. This evening, I believe we are prepared through our wonderful Carrie Lamb to be able to do a poll in Zoom. So your voting will only be viewable by the host of the meeting and not by anybody else when we push out the the polls. So Carrie
Right.
will.
So
see
my
the-
understanding is that's only if there's more than one person nominated for a position, right?
That is correct. So if we end up with only one nomination for each of the positions, then we won't need to do the polling. But certainly I am not discouraging people from making nominations. So the first position then up for the executive committee this evening would be the vice president's slot. And I will look for a motion. I see Don with his hand up.
Thank you, Neil. I would like to thank the people who supported me last year in my pursuit of the vice presidency. It's been a rewarding year, an interesting year. I learned a lot, and I learned it's a heck of a lot of work, and I can't imagine being in Neil's position. But I'm here tonight to tell you, and I don't want to go into it in a public meeting, but I got a phone call in September that kind of turned my life upside down. I don't think the pandemic is a good thing, but I would not have been in your meetings if we hadn't been doing Zoom, because I've been in Virginia 3 times since September. My wife has been there for 3 weeks. She's not there now. We're both here. Very serious illness in our family. And our daughter needs a tremendous amount of support. She has 3 children and a business that's been challenged during a pandemic, but they've survived the pandemic business-wise so far. But it's taking a lot of our family time that we thought during our golden years we wouldn't have to do. So I see my availability to VSBA is somewhat limited. And I'm glad I survived September, October, November, and been able to do Zoom and other ways. So I'm not a candidate, but I would like to nominate Flora Diaz-Smith as the next vice president of VSBA.
Thank you very much, Don. So we have one nomination for floor. Are there any other nominations for vice president? Seeing none. Carrie, you don't get to use your polling skills just yet. All those in favor of floor as vice president for the VSBA Executive Committee, please say yay.
Yay.
Yay. Raise your hand. Any opposed? No. Floor, welcome back to the
Thank you.
VSBA Executive Committee.
I'm honored, and you should feel my heart beating. It would be like, yeah.
I'll be sending you all of the international, national, and regional meeting information that has to be responded to by December 3rd or 4th.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really honored.
Yeah. Sandra, do you have something?
Just a procedural question, but first, congratulations, Fleur. I heard the motion from Dawn. Does it need to be seconded?
Nominations do not need to be
Okay,
seconded.
thank you.
And while Sandra is on the screen, Flora, resolutions, Sandra is experienced now. She did a tremendous job, and that's going to take some of your time during the summer. That's a biggie. I found it very enjoying, a little frustrating at times with her, but Sandra is your go-to person. She pulled it off.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don. So the next position on the executive committee would be the treasurer's position, and I will look for a nomination. I've got George.
Yes, I would like to nominate Kim Gleason for that position.
Thank you, George. Are there any other nominations? And once again, Carrie, you have been foiled. If there
Thank you,
are,
George.
Well, you're welcome, I hope.
I know.
No, you do a great job. Thank you for doing it.
we are not allowing Kim to
Thank
speak at
you.
this moment. Kim, you need to keep quiet. You've been nominated for a position. I'm joking. If you need to say something, you can say something. All right. If there are no other nominations, all those in favor of Kim, raise your hands, say yay.
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 Aye.
Okay.
Enthusiastic support for Kim Gleason as our treasurer.
Thank you all. And thanks for the support and help that we get with our finance committee over the summer too.
All right. And so remaining, we have 2 positions for at-large members. And so I will look for a nomination for first position, David Chandler.
Well, I'd like to nominate Jim Salzgiver.
Awesome. Are there, Sue, procedurally, do you think I should just handle one at a time or look to see if there are 2 nominations?
Probably just cleaner if you do it one at a time.
Okay. Any other nominations for the first member at large position? All right. Seeing none, then all those in favor of Jim Salzgiver?
Aye, yay.
Okay.
All right, that looks to be fairly unanimous to me. Welcome back, Jim.
Thank you.
And so we have the second position, the second member at large position for the executive committee. So we'll look for another nomination, and I see Kim with her hand up.
I would like to nominate Adrian Raymond for the second at-large position on the executive committee.
All right, thank you, Kim. Are there any other nominations? No. Carrie, I am sorry, you are out of luck tonight with the polling feature. We're trying to get Carrie a new skill here. I think she's probably got it down. I think she knows what she's doing, but I am happy not to have to use it. All those in favor of Adrian for the second member at large position, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Yay. Thank you.
That looks to be unanimous as well. Welcome, Adrian.
Thank you.
Thank you, board. We've got the makings of a great executive committee, so I think we're going to have another great year on the VSBA. With that, I will move on then to the consent agenda, which consists of the September minutes, excuse me, that are included in your packet. And with that, I will look for a motion. Kim Gleason moves to accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Seconded by Mark Schauber. Any discussion? Any comments on the minutes? Seeing none. All those in favor, raise your hand, say yay.
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 Any abstentions? See one. Dave Sharp for the abstention. Motion passes. Thank you, board. And then moving on to new business. Are there any items of new business that board members would like to bring forward? And I know before I forget about it, Tara had one. So let me go to Tara first.
I just wanted to ask the board, my board met this week and I've been meeting with our select board, trying to figure out town meeting. Our town is still traditionalist. We gather and meet and vote right from the floor. We just wanted to hear what other towns are maybe thinking of doing for town meeting with the COVID. I mean, we have the option of Australian ballot. I know the school is worried that our budget will be defeated if we do Australian ballot, and we get great support from the residents that are there, the 120 out of almost 1,000 residents that come. And there's a lot of keyboard warriors who don't come to the meeting that disapprove of the budget without hearing any presentations. So we're a little worried about what might happen if we do that, but we wanted to hear what other boards were thinking of doing for town meeting.
Has anybody else opined about this locally? George?
Well, right now, we're waiting to hear some direction from the state, and that may make the decision for all of us.
Yeah, us too. We're still waiting to hear.
In Peacham, we're pretty much going to go ahead with Australian ballot. We have the same concerns you do about voting the budget down and people not being getting the information that they need, but we don't see any way to safely bring people together.
Kim, go ahead.
I was just we actually vote later in April, but we consequently were a district that didn't have a passed budget during the pandemic. couldn't vote in April, pushed our date out to June 1st, and made a difficult decision in Essex Westford to ask our town to send ballots to every active voter. We normally vote Australian ballot, but have very low voter turnout. We were worried about even having people come out, but then felt like it was the right thing to do to send ballots to everybody. In doing so, we recognized the risk that we largely have tremendous support of our budget from a very low voter turnout. And we thought there was a big risk in having the budget be voted down in the middle of the pandemic. We had, I think it passed 2-1, and we had outstanding voter turnout that we've never seen. So if that is heartening to hear and helpful to hear, we were fearful for the same reason. I don't hear anybody suggesting they have to send ballots to everybody. We just at that time felt like that was what we had to do. So even people requesting Australian ballots, I think there's a harder effort to get as much information out as you can in advance for people, but maybe take heart and try to take a breath and just maybe trust that people are appreciative, I hope, at this point of education. Educators, our schools are showing up in ways that I feel a certain sense of appreciation across the board that I hope, and it certainly showed up in our ballots in June. So hope that helps.
Thanks, Kim. Anybody else?
Neil, I can just report that I have received a few questions from superintendents because there was a temporary law that was passed by the legislature pertaining to 2021, allowing school boards to make the decision to go to Australian ballot just for 2021. And I have a meeting tomorrow with Will Senning, who is the head of the elections division at the Secretary of State's office, to get the answers to some of those questions. And we're planning to do a communication out to all school board members with more information. So that may be helpful for you when you're making your decisions.
Yeah, because we feel like we need to make that decision in December, because in January we'll have to push everything out to get it in the town report. So
yes.
Thanks for that, Sue. Any other new business, Jim?
Yeah, I've got on a separate issue. Had an interesting, I don't know whether other people saw, but there were some emails going out from a group of Burlington School District school board members. And they were trying to get people together to kind of create a coalition of school boards who have an interest in the weighting study. And so I signed up and joined him on the Zoom sort of intro call, and it's essentially it was Burlington, Winooski, Rutland. There were a few pockets. There were a group from Windham County who joined in on the call, and just had a discussion about how to move forward, work on actually getting implementation of the weighting study. And I thought it's great for a group of school board members to try to get together at a larger level. To some extent, that's what we try to do at VSBA. But there's nothing to say that a subgroup, maybe with a slightly different position, we took a position on the weighting study that we want the legislature to actually engage with it and get going on a timeline for actual implementation of the weighting study over time. But this is a different group, and they have, they can have their own little effort. But I joined in with them, and I thought, it was a lot of good discussion. And one thing I, came away with is, they really, even though they're kind of doing somewhat of a parallel activity to VSBA, they're still school board members, and we probably still, we really should be engaged with them. You know, one thing I found was, I think they were missing some information that we may have on what's happened so far. There are a variety of people who seemed not at all confident that anything would ever happen with a waiting study. And I think that's probably, you know, probably sort of a skewed view. It brought up a fact that I believe that, you know, they're redoing the numbers on the financial impacts of the waiting study at each individual, you know, SU. And I don't think there was an awareness of that. I think I thought it was, you know, interesting, something for, you know, all of you guys to be aware of, because, you know, the VSBA board represents the state, you know, all the state school boards. Here's a group of school boards, and I think we ought to engage with them and just make sure they have all the information they need to have a, you know, full understanding of the issues. And that, you know, and to some extent, one thing they were looking for is to figure out who, you know, who they're not including that they should include. So, you know, there are a lot of questions with this whole effort, you know, but I thought it was interesting, and I thought it seems to make a lot more sense to me that if there's an effort of a group of, you know, a very significant group of school board members around the state putting together an effort, that really, you know, we ought to be engaging with them on it. So, you know, that's, I throw it out for any sort of discussion, thoughts from other people, but I'm kind of, you know, advocating that the VSBA probably touch base with, you know, the people at the Burlington School District who were kind of leading this effort. They were very reasonable. You know, they were just, you know, talking about the issue and how do we move this forward. So I think, you know, I'm kind of advocating that we open, you know, direct lines of communication to make sure that we're being of assistance to them and we're aware of what's going on with them.
Thanks for that, Jim. And I guess number one, I'm mindful of the time.
Yep.
So we're at a little after 7:30 already, because I think this is something that we do need to talk about. I just don't know that we've got sufficient time and resources to be able to do it tonight. I have talked with Sue. This is going to be, this topic will be on the December agenda for the VSBA board. And I think the one benefit here is that because this meeting was a little bit later in the month than we normally meet, the time between now and our next meeting, so that the next VSBA meeting, I think, is December 9th. Is that right, Sue? So there's not too much time between now and then.
Right.
I'm hoping that
I think that
have
group
it on
has
that.
their, sorry.
Well, I was hoping if we can have it on that December agenda so that this board has enough time to review, you know, what's been going on, what this other group is doing, and then have a meaningful discussion about it at that meeting. It would be helpful, I think.
And I can provide some, I provided a little bit of info, but just as an FYI, I think the other group has their next meeting on December 6th. So I'll just plan on, you know, attending that meeting just to kind of, you know, stick with them, and then I can let you guys know on the 9th what's going on. Now, just as an FYI, also Mark Schauer, he had heard from some people in his neighborhood that were interested in this. You know, again, in Windham County, it's a significant thing. Dan had touched base as well, and you know, had interest in it. So there are a few other board members who are also, you know, interested and slightly involved. But I think that your proposal is fine with me. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think the one other thing that if what you guys is that maybe there's if people don't seem to maybe have all of the best or the most current information, maybe one thing I could talk with Sue about it is we could resend some of those prior communications that we've sent out on the waiting study if we think that people just may not be have all the information at hand that they need.
And I think it could be helpful to, we may have some information that we put together in the past that could be useful. Or, yeah.
Yeah, we did a webinar in June on the waiting study that might be helpful. And actually, I was going to recommend for the members of this board that, and I'll send this to you in an email as well, but that you watch that webinar. It's on our website, and it would be really helpful if you're going to be talking about the waiting study at the December meeting, if you're able to watch the webinar before that meeting.
So plan on that agenda item for December board.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Any other new business items? Mark, go ahead.
Thank you to Don. Oh, sorry.
Oops, sorry.
I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but you can tell me if it's not. I chair the policy committee on our board, and I'm trying to find a policy for board email use. And I'm wondering, I've had a hard time finding anything. I'm wondering if any of you guys have a policy in place that you might be able to share with me.
Do we have something? I don't think we have model policy on that, Sue, right?
I don't think so.
And Mark,
I
is this
believe
about?
we have something in our essentials book about it that I can send out to you, Mark, if you'd like.
Yeah, I have that. I'm looking for a policy that I can model something after.
Is this about use of personal email versus like a school board email address, or is this about content of email?
No, it's about personal versus board.
Okay.
So Mark, Sandra has access to, she's part of the NSBA policy listserv. And so she could do a question to other states to see if anyone has anything they'd be willing to share, if that would be helpful to you.
That would be great.
Yeah, Mark, if you want to just send me a quick specific, what is your ask? I can put it out. And usually we get at least a few examples back.
Oh, excellent. Great. Thank you.
Sure.
Adrian, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, we don't have a policy on that, but having been served with a public records request, I think having everyone be reminded to keep their emails separate and to watch what you say in your emails is highly important. That's it. Just a reminder.
Thank you.
I almost think we need a little box every month or every time we do a newsletter that just reminds everyone when you say something on email, it's just like you're saying it at a public meeting.
I feel like it's possible the Secretary of State's office or somebody might have spoken to that in, I feel like in the last couple of years, there had been fairly strong guidance coming that board communications happen on board emails for that purpose. Otherwise, your entire personal email box could become discoverable. I might have that wrong, be making stuff up. Sue can help me. I feel that.
No.
It has to be the Public Records Act. So, yeah.
All right, we'll see what we can pull together for you, Mark, and get that over to you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep, I know Kim had hinted at it, and I did want to take a moment to say thank you to Don for your service on the executive committee over the past year. I am not saying goodbye because we are not losing you. We are merely seeing a transition in membership on the executive committee, so I just wanted to take a moment and say thanks.
Thank you. I won't go away. I like the work of the VSBA, but I just don't think it's fair if I end up in Virginia every 2 or 3 months. It's hard to be online even when you got 3 grandkids doing homework and the friends coming in. I was lucky a couple of times I was in a hotel room and I could do it. But anyway, I'm not going away, but Flora will do a good job.
Agreed. Thank you, though, for the time that you spent on this.
I would ask Carrie or Sandra, send that out to if you get a response to Mark's question, Could you just kind of let all of us know? At least I'd like to know.
Perfect.
Yes.
I think I saw some head shaking there. Yes, so we can be able to do that. Any other new business before we depart this evening? All right. Seeing none. Thank you, board. I thought I was going to be way over on time tonight. We are a little bit over, and I apologize, but thanks for your assistance in getting us to this point. And with that, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Kim.
Thank you. Seconded by Tara. I saw that hand go up pretty quick. All those in favor of the motion, you can just click the little red leave button on the lower right hand side.
Thanks, Neil, and everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Yes,
Yeah,
happy
happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Stay safe.
Yes.